Good evening and welcome to this week's episode of Sunday Night Live, your favorite automotive show where we talk about all of the issues that improve the customer service at your store. Because the better the customer experience, the more they come back and bring all their friends, co-workers, and family. And before you know it, your business is booming. And every month I have a segment where we focus on TechForce.org or TechForce Foundation. It is an incredible organization that does so much good to help the technicians in our world. Every store I walk into every day, I need more techs. I need more techs. And the reality is there are not enough of them coming out of tech school. So there are organizations like TechForce where they give out huge scholarships. I think on target for 2.4 million or something like that this year. Not to mention a bunch of other things, training and events, things like that they do. And so I have a strategic partnership with TechForce. I just celebrated my year, just over a year with them. So I'm very excited to be able to give back and help in my automotive community. And they help me with quality folks that come on the show. Guys like Brian Gutierrez, who's going to share with us how his company works with TechForce to advance their goals. And the bottom line is it helps all of us. So Brian, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you. Thank you for having me today.
So tell us a little bit about your background in the business, and then we'll jump right into it.
All right. So I've been in the collision repair industry since it was my first job. So this is a family-owned and operated company. Started by Brian Sr. about 30 years ago. So came into the industry. We service the collision repair industry. So we work directly with the body shops. So I've always kind of had like that third party insight of meeting the entire shop, because being a vendor, you get to not only participate with ownership, you get to participate with administration, you get to participate with the painters, and you get to participate with the techs. So you have a large overview of the entirety of the business. So now, go across, work as a national sales manager, moving our products across the United States through other similar companies, and now currently up in the Bay Area, and now working with the mentorship program to get technicians placed back into the industry.
Now, do you focus primarily on the body shop side of things, since that's
your
wheelhouse?
Yes, specifically in the body shop side. So like you said, there's a lack of technicians across many industries, but specifically I'm working with collision centers to get body techs back into the shops.
Now that's an art form unto itself. I mean, I've been in automotive for a long time, and early on in school, we had an automotive class, and we were pretty fortunate because we did body work in our automotive class. We had our own spray booth right in the high school, which is, I guess, probably not that common. But I learned, how to work with dollies and how to shape metal and everybody's favorite Bondo back in the day.
Yeah, and with the advancements in the automotive industry, it's a lot of those programs are just not up to date anymore. So specifically with our program, we require the student to get an associate's degree, because we've realized how important it is for young technicians that have a better understanding in the reading comprehension in these other aspects, because the advanced repair process, during the repair now, so it's not anybody could run an ADOS system, not anybody could read a BRM. So as the cars become more complicated, the repair is becoming a lot more complicated as well.
Now, it's interesting because way back when it didn't really seem to matter, right? So I remember fondly brazing pieces of metal into the body panels, and Bondo over it. But some of these cars now with all these safety systems, they require specific metals and tooling, right?
No, yeah, absolutely. And I think for a long time, kind of the body repair class or the profession kind of had a stigma around it of, maybe it wasn't the brightest student that was kind of geared or pushed towards, that type of career opportunity. And as the cars advance and the repair becomes more advanced, it's going to take a specially skilled person to repair your brand new, 2024 Toyota Camry or your Mercedes-Benz AMG. The cars are just are accelerating at a pace that is just, unbelievable. Our OEs are spending billions of dollars to make these cars safer, more advanced, but our education and the way we encourage techs to come into this industry haven't changed at all. So as the
Right.
car changes, we haven't made any changes to, stay with that beaten path and continue to, grow in the industry.
Now, what I thought was pretty interesting, your company, it makes metals. Did I get
No,
that
so
correct?
no, so yeah, so we supply specific welding wire that's going to be certified by the specific OE.
Okay.
So each collision repair program now, from Ford to Jaguar to Honda, they're calling out specific welding wires that have to be used during specific welding procedures during the repair. And Titan Technology supplies a long list of specialty wires to facilitate those repairs.
Now, Peter Smith says, first of all, well, looking forward to the show, Paul, and thus the reason why most Teslas are being labeled as write-offs. So when certain manufacturers, certain OEMs, they have certain requirements for certain metals, right? So if that welding material is not specific to that particular OEM, then the integrity of where it's put together comes into play.
Yes, it can cause weld failure. It could affect the crash energy management, which will essentially impact airbag timing, safety restraint systems. So these are critical points of the car. So if the car doesn't have that right bonding in that specific area, when the energy passes through that car, instead
Yeah.
of the energy moving through, it's going to get stuck and usually crumble. And there could be a fatality, or somebody could be really badly, injured because of a bad repair.
And what's interesting is that this is something that most people don't even think about.
No, they really don't. They're running, old school welders, that are not made for automotive, that are made to weld a fence. They buy, welding wire from a local welding house that's made to, weld a bridge together, not your brand new, Tesla or your brand new, Honda product. It's very, very specific.
And I would tend to think that the caliber of welder has to be a few levels up as well,
No, yeah.
to know how to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just it's much different, you know what I mean? Early, I think it was early 2000s or late or 2005 when the cafe standards came out, and that was the big impact for the collision repair industry, because this was going to challenge all the OEs to make a car, to get better gas mileage. So what the auto manufacturers did is that they lightened up the bodies of the vehicle, and then all of a sudden, this is when you heard Ford come out with military grade aluminum and ultra advanced high strength steel, because they reduce the weight of the vehicle to increase the gas mileage. But essentially, the repair process changed completely. And for most people, that are not in the body shop, they didn't realize that. Now, all of a sudden, your new Ford F-150, isn't, can't be straightened, can't be welded a certain way, and it created a kind of a nightmare in the automotive industry, or at least in the collision repair industry.
Wow, that's really interesting. My early days on in the business started off in the welding that I did was basic oxyacetylene welding on exhaust systems, and some brazing when I did some body work. And then, some of the shops had MIG and TIG, but it's just so much more advanced now.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot more advanced, and this is why it's so important to make sure that our educational programs are up to date, because this is what the industry needs. We need, young technicians that understand these new processes, these new tools that could, come into any body shop and be productive and fix cars safely and be profitable at the same time.
Now, talk to me about how you integrate with what you do with TechForce.
So how I got with TechForce, so I work really closely with a automotive program out of Richmond or San Pablo, California, called Contra Costa College. And we run a specific program called collision engineering. And it's a mentorship program that not only trains, technicians with the latest equipment, the latest technologies, the latest practices. We also do job placement, making sure that we get the kids in healthy shops with good cultures. This is how I got aligned with TechForce. So TechForce essentially keeps their ear to the ground of what's happening in the industry. Our program was creating some excitement. We were having some really good feedback from across the industry. TechForce reached out and wanted to, make that alliance and work together to, keep on, bringing more young people into the industry.
So you pair up with the schools and then you help them set up mentorship programs, or do you actually supply the mentors?
No, so we actually help them set up the mentorship program. So we, first we do a lot of community outreach or business outreach, working with local businesses, and then we try to identify what businesses would be the best match. And we just don't allow anybody to, take one of our students, just because we don't want to scare anybody away from the industry. We're trying to bring technicians in, not run them out. So
Right.
It's really a long process. And once we have a shop that, we feel is fit and they have good leadership and are willing to kind of make the right move and allow us to come in and do our thing, then we identify a mentor in the shop that has maybe not the most experience, but has the best attitude and disposition to work with a young person.
Okay.
Yeah. So once we are able to lock that in, that's when we move forward and we place the student and they're able to become employed, and then they have that same mentor for 2 years until they graduate the program.
Now, Jennifer says being a technician today is more than turning a wrench. So much interesting technology. Yeah, no, it's certainly come a long way from when I first turned a wrench in the early, oh God, what was that? Late 70s.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Early
I feel
80s.
like, yeah, and I feel like that's kind of the stigma we're trying to like dig ourselves out of. These are not just some, like, you're not beating panels anymore and throwing Bondo on a car. It's like there's, hundreds of sensory systems in your vehicle now that got to be reset. If one is not correct, they're all off. You know what I mean?
Right.
And the welding parameters are completely different. Like there's multiple metals. So now we have hybrid cars that have aluminum bodies, and then they have a steel structure, and then they have a carbon fiber hood. It's just like it's all over the board.
Wow.
It's not your 1986 Oldsmobile anymore.
Not your father's Oldsmobile anymore, right?
Yeah, it's definitely not. And this is across the board for, all manufacturers. It doesn't matter if you're in a Kia or you're in a
Right.
Mercedes Benz. the cars are much more advanced.
Again, something that so many people don't even think about. Now, speaking of thinking about, Robert Allen Carvel says average age of a body tech is 47 years of age. Now, I'm curious. I know that when I was in high school and I took auto shop, we kind of learned mechanics, we learned body work, we learned painting, we learned all that stuff. So now I'm curious, and I don't know if you know the answer to this or not, but does somebody go specifically, when they're starting out, I want to be in the body shop, or is it a progression? If the average age of a body person is 47 years old, are they typically in the body shop for their entire career, or do they progress to that? Do you know this?
It really just depends, and I feel like that's kind of the culture that has kind of gotten to where we're at now, why we have a technician shortage, because there's not a lot of progression in the shop.
Right.
So there's a lack of people identifying strong suits and moving people up through their organizations to do more. And that's one thing that we really like to identify with our employers, that if you have, a good tech, but then also has some other really good skills, they can move into other positions, in the center, becoming an estimator, parts person, production manager. Um, One thing, that's very special about technicians, it's usually like the B-type personalities that we've identified. It's a guy that can sit in a stall, put his headphones on, and work on one thing all day long. That's a special type of character.
Yeah, no, you're right.
You know what I mean? But they're also the guys that will, take a beating for a long while and not tell you anything's wrong. You know what I mean? Then eventually just get up and leave and be like, oh, and that's why the average age of technicians 47, and there's a big lack of any interest to come into the industry.
When you talk about the guy that puts on the headphones, I have fond recollections. Some of my guys were, I probably in every shop, there are a lot of characters. And there was this one kid that worked for me, Rich Romanowski, and we nicknamed him the Headbanger because this guy listened to heavy metal music all the time. The guy was all tatted up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in communication with him today, right? He actually came to one of our guys' night out dinners. He surprised me. He just showed up at the dinner, which was really cool. But to the headphone piece that I want to get back to, this guy, he would work on cars. He'd have his headphones on all day. And I'll never forget one day I'm walking with a customer. We're walking behind the shop. We're going to the office. And here's this guy rocking out to some heavy metal. And you don't hear the music, but he's singing to the music. So he's under the car going like this. He's like, Mama was a devil. And he's so I totally get where you're coming from on the headphone person immersed in the work.
Yeah.
See. Jennifer Sanders says, I can see that being as being an advantage for engaging young people today. Big challenge in communication that broadly. Yeah. If that is, it's such an intricate work today that a body shop would be a very interesting job to go into. And as Robert Allen Carvel says, they make well into the six-figure range.
No, yeah, absolutely. And I don't think a lot of people completely, understand the opportunities in the collision center. That a technician is a valuable job, and it's a key component to the industry. And I'm a big advocate of that. We are a technician based industry. Without somebody in the stall turning wrenches, there is no equipment company, there is no insurance company, there is no, it starts with the labor.
You're right.
You know what I mean? but over the years, I think the industry's gotten so big, we kind of lost track of that. One thing that I've always noticed, growing up in the body shops, it's like when someone picks up their car that's, been damaged, and it has everything looks perfect and it has a nice new paint of coat on it. It's nice and shiny. They come in and who do they thank? They thank the girl at the front desk. They thank the estimator. Maybe the manager gets a pat on the back. No one ever goes out and tells, the technician, hey, buddy, good job. You know what I mean? So it's not necessarily the lack of opportunity in the industry. I think that it's the culture that really needs to be addressed in the body shop to make it more healthy, more inviting for a new generation. It's like the way that things were, it's just this new generation is not going to put up with it. They're not going to want to work there.
It's
You
a
know,
whole different world.
it's a different world. It's a different way of thinking, a different attitude, different mindset. And we need to embrace it because without, young people coming into the industry, there is no industry.
What's interesting too is that I'm old, so I'm of a different. I hate the term work ethic because I don't think it's necessarily ethic. It's more of what we're used to. It's not good or bad. But I made a comment. I've got to get it done kind of guy, right? And I will do whatever it takes to get it done within however long I need to do it. If I know my project is this long, if I have to stay up until 1 and 2 in the morning to get it done, then that's what I'm going to do. Whereas the young people today that come in, no, at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, they shut the machine off and they leave and they come back tomorrow. And that's sometimes frustrating for an old guy like me because I'm looking for a document or something and I'm waiting for it, right? I'm expecting it to come within the hour. And to that other person, it's not coming within the hour.
Yeah.
It's coming next week, Tuesday.
Yeah. And I think too, one thing that we've kind of identified with our mentorship and working with like, multiple generations, it's really just a big lack of communication. People don't know how to communicate with one another. And people think that people are mind readers, and a little conversation of expectation goes a long way.
Yeah.
And sometimes we kind of get caught where it's like, oh, you should know that this is the way that we do things. Well, we don't know that. Why don't you
Right.
explain it? Why don't you tell me? If you're expecting this, then there's an expectation. And in a healthy environment where we can communicate and you tell me what you need, I tell you what I need, things work out a lot more, a lot smoothly, you know what I mean? Just because I know that, the older, generation was kind of like, it's kind of like I'm the boss and you're the employee, you know what I mean? And now it's a much more team-based idea. You know what I mean?
So,
That's the culture in healthy businesses where it's like I can't do this on my own. It's a group effort.
so it sounds like not only is your mentoring geared towards the mechanics of it, but it's also geared towards the psychology of it and how to make them feel more a part of the team rather than just teach them the mechanics of how to do the job.
No, yeah, absolutely. Just because, when you're working when you're working in a career, you're there at your job more than you are at home. It's
Yeah.
like people want to work in a healthy environment in a place they feel good about. And one thing in our mentorship, we sit and we have these roundtable meetings where we bring the leadership in, we bring the mentor in, we bring faculty from the school in, and we bring the student in. And we have these really open, honest discussions. And sometimes it's uncomfortable because there's some accountability issues that need to be brought up. But usually by the end of it, everybody's laughing, everybody feels good. But sometimes this is the first time even the technicians sat down with the owner of the shop and even had a conversation. And they finally realized this guy's not a monster. He's just a normal guy, and it really just changes the entire atmosphere. And we've seen some of the shops that we participate, just grow and blossom, and just kind of take this program, this mentorship program, and not only implement it with the students that they're mentoring, but kind of implement it across their entire organization, and it's worked wonders, and not only culture wise, but also fiscally wise, where they're being very profitable, things are very productive, and things are going in the right way. So
Well, it's an investment in their future, really, because I think the statistic is half the technicians leave, the new ones leave the business 2 years in. So to have a structured program for 2 years and to cover not only the physical part of it, but also the psychological part of it, that's huge. I want to get to a couple of comments. Steve DiMarzio says, graying workforce affects both white collar and new collar jobs. And Jen says, my earlier comment was about high-tech nature of the job, not necessarily the guy going, Mama was a devil. Now, Steve, what do you mean by graying workforce? You mean like
an aging workforce?
Workforce? Like old guy like me? Or what are you talking about, man? And Peter Smith says, most do not understand the impact of the collision industry on retail automotive. I see what you did there, Peter. The impact of the collision industry on retail automotive. It's massive. Yeah, no joke. And it's I think it's very tough to manage also. Had an experience recently where my daughter's car was parked and it was hit by a drunk driver. Okay. Apparently this was a repeat offender who knew what to do to not get arrested on the scene for drunk driving, which is sad unto itself. But the body shop, they took about 4 months, which is a ridiculous amount of time, to get the car, what we thought was repaired. And they called my daughter up and said, hey, your car's all set. Come pick it up. She goes to pick it up. And the front bumper wasn't even touched. The front bumper was still damaged. Wow. I mean, it was mind blowing. And when she said, hey, you called me that my car's ready. My car's not ready. I traded it in because the car was a near total loss. And it wasn't ready. So the guy said he didn't want to put the bumper on the estimate because that would have totaled the car. I'm like, are you kidding? Maybe that's what should have happened. The car should have been totaled, right?
No, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So it's a tough, it's a really tough business to manage these days. Steve DiMarzio says, recognition of a job well done goes a long way. I second, third, and fourth that.
No, yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely. Appreciation goes a long way. It's really neat, working in this program, and just giving that, the technician a voice.
Right.
Because as long as I've been in the industry, I've sat at a lot of round tables, go to the SEMA show. Everybody talks about this technician crisis, and there's not one technician in the room.
Right.
Everybody's talking about what's going on and talking about a person that is non-existent. And it's always baffled me. It's like we've really strayed away from being a labor-based industry, and I can go on a tangent on that, Paul. I don't know if you guys want to do that right now.
How much time do we have?
I'll stay focused.
Let's see. Peter Smith says we need to start engaging the youth before the college choice. Art history is not a pathway to success unless you plan on being a teacher in art history.
No, absolutely. But it's about, getting rid of that stigma like we talked about earlier, Paul. It's like that there is opportunity in the industry. You can make six figures. And not only in the automotive industry being a technician, but that could lead to many other opportunities, working for an equipment vendor, a paint company, because it's like once you understand the foundation of the repair, the world is your oyster. There's so many opportunities in the automotive sector, but we need our counselors at our high schools talking about this. We need our counselors at our colleges talking about this. It's really just going to be a forgotten art form if the stigma isn't dropped and we create a new image of the industry that is healthy and motivating, and it's not some second rate job.
Yeah, no, it's highly specialized. And what's interesting is that, and this just kind of hit me now. I remember back in the day rebuilding alternators and rebuilding starters, and that's just not done today anymore. Now it's, here's this old starter, you give me a box for a new starter, and it's the parts replacement. I would imagine that the business itself probably goes that way also, insofar as some of the body panels, right? Maybe
Yeah,
with a shortage, now we're replacing the whole panel as opposed to repairing it because we don't have the people in place.
absolutely. So, and usually, or not usually, but most of the time, that it's more profitable for the shops to repair than it is to replace, because they're able to capture labor hours and repair the vehicle correctly. But it is coming to that with the lack of a skilled technician. It's going to be a lot easier just to remove and replace the part than put the trust in a low level tech to make a quality repair.
Yeah, it's crazy. Mike Larkin says, what is the solution to get young people involved? Headsets?
Yeah, I think that I think we need to be more engaged. We need to get back to the idea that this is a technician based industry, and there needs to be more appreciation for our technicians. There's going to be more recognition that this is a job that is that has some valor. It's a cool job, and it's also a profitable job. And we're not selling that, and I just think that usually I got into this industry because of my father. You know what I mean? Obviously, it was different. So whatever's happening now, these technicians are telling their kids, "Go do something else. You don't want to. You don't want to work here. You don't want to do this. We need to. We need to change. Something needs to change."
There's a good video here. This is about having the conversation early, and I love this video. It's one of my favorite TechForce videos. Let's watch this.
You know me. I'm just a younger version of you.
I like to tear stuff apart so I can put it back together.
My hands are my best tools.
I learn with my hands. I work with them.
I think with them.
We know how to make things go.
So what would you tell me if I was the younger you?
Would you tell me to stop fidgeting?
Sit at my desk and try to be like everybody else.
Or that there's only one road to success? Or should I keep driving like you did, fixing stuff and figuring out how to keep the world moving?
Help me show the world that there's a profession right here in my hands.
Help me build my life and my career the way I'm wired to work.
For us, this is how we work, and you can lay that across to you. It's how we are, wired for success. If we stand together, stand for those of us who love working with our hands, we'll not only champion tomorrow's workforce of technicians, but we just may change the way everyone thinks about technical careers.
You figure it out how to be you.
Now help me be me.
Yeah, those are the kind of conversations that we need to have, and we need to have them early on, And another thing, too, is that I've seen technicians come into the business, learn the business, get the certifications and the schooling, develop the expertise, and then open up their own specialty shops in those specific OEMs. I've seen them down the street from a dealership with a big billboard. Hey, save money on your repairs on this particular brand by coming to our shop. Certified, trained, all that stuff. I want to get to a comment from Brian Kramer. Brian says, one of the major problems is that most dealers think they can recruit from a real talent pool that doesn't exist. Dealers think they can just keep running an ad to hire technicians and not fix the problem at the root of it all. Here, here. When we say people don't want to work, no. People may not want to work for you. It doesn't mean they don't want to work, because I had a good fortune to spend some time with Ed Roberts at Bozard Ford Lincoln recently. I went down for his book signing, and I got to meet all of the people at that store. And what impressed me was that, for one, there's no technician shortage there, okay? And they're not on another planet. They're in Florida, you know, not that different than most other places. And everybody that I talked to clearly loved working there. And not only did they love working there, but it was such a cohesive team, because the cross-training that's involved meant that most of the people knew their co-workers' jobs, even if it was a different job. And not only did they know their job, but they got along better because they understood what the frustration was. There was one particular guy that when he did the advisor's job, now he understood what a pain in the butt he was as a technician to the advisor. And he had a whole different outlook on that job. But you're right, Brian. It's there is no giant employee pool.
There is no pool, and it's just, you know, I think some organizations try to have an internal training program, which is great. But what really comes down to it, that pool is going to exist from an educational standpoint when there is, you know, more automotive programs, more technician-based programs in our high schools, in our colleges. It's like, in the all reality, in the greater scheme of things, these programs are disappearing from you know, our states and from your communities. It's like, it's very rare that you're going to see a healthy automotive program, you know, in a high school setting anymore. It's if you do see it, it's more about you know, it's more of a hobby shop. Let's rebuild and paint a car. It's not,
Right.
you know, let me show you how to, you know, dissect a brand new 2023, you know, product and repair it and you know, make it functional again. It's
Now, here's where we as dealers can make a huge impact on our own need, okay? We donate so much money as dealers to communities, huge amounts of money, all right? And we spend so much money. Dealers spend $20,000 to $30,000 a month to bring in new business through various campaigns. And if that campaign runs 1.5% to 3% return on that money, like, ooh, we're doing great. This is awesome. No, it's not awesome. We need to reallocate, and we need to think smarter, and we need to reallocate some of those funds that we're spending on marketing needlessly, leverage a lot of the free tools that are available to us, like social media and Google, to bring people in where you don't have to spend money, and take some of the monies that we're saving that we don't need to spend to bring customers in, and go into the schools and develop programs, okay? If
absolutely.
the school is cutting back, that doesn't mean, look, we have the need. It's in our best interest. I was at a dealership not that long ago, and you know, in looking at what was going on, I said, look, you don't have enough technicians, and the technicians that you have are spending too much time doing the low level work that's preventing you from bringing in the greater paying jobs. So I said, is there a school near you? I said, yes, there is. Do you have a partnership with that school? Well, I used to at another place. I said, well, great. The great thing about academia is that there isn't a huge turnover like in in a lot of other sectors. So I said, what I'd like you to do is, we figured out the hundreds of hours that the techs were spending doing the mundane stuff. And we figured out that there is a pool of students that they can bring in as apprentices that can take over those jobs. I said, go into the school, say, listen, how's your automotive program? How can we help you become better at what you're trying to achieve, right? What do you need? Do you need
Absolutely.
this tool, that tool? Let's go in, let's provide them with the tool. We're going there to help them, right? And hey, as a bonus, why don't you give me 4, 5, 6 of your students, and we'll bring them in at an apprenticeship program, under an apprenticeship program, and we'll teach them some of the skills in practical settings, right? These are free employees, free.
No, absolutely. And it's not just any employee, it's an employee that has the right attitude, that wants to be there, right?
Bam.
It's one thing, you can teach somebody skill, but you can't teach them character, right? So I could teach you everything I need you to know, but I can't teach you how to show up on time with a smile on your face and have a good attitude. And that's the benefit of going into these educational programs, going to academia. You have kids that are excited, that want to come into the industry.
Yes.
It's like, so let's rebuild the culture. Let's create a healthy environment for them, and not worry about what they know, but let's just worry about what we can teach them.
They are a fresh block of clay.
Absolutely.
That we can impact. We can make their lives better, while at the same time making our lives better, because who benefits? Ultimately, the customer does, because we're able to satisfy their needs quicker. The dealer does, because we're able to do larger jobs and become more profitable. The students do, because they're able to get hands-on experience from a quality operation. We're not talking about some aftermarket shop that's maybe a little questionable. We're talking about a dealership that's pumped millions of dollars into a facility, and all of the trimmings that come with that, and all of the opportunity. Wow, I get super jacked when I think about where we can go.
Yeah, and for me, it's not rocket science, so it's like, this is definitely practical solutions. And just unfortunately, in our industry, we've had some gatekeepers that have been talking about these issues for a long time with no real solution.
Right.
And they've absorbed a lot of that foundational money and a lot of that profit, and haven't done anything with it. And it's created a mess, you know what I mean? And that's another conversation. But that's been a big frustrating, or a big barrier, that I've seen in our industry, because we have somebody that's supposed to be doing this, and it's just not happening.
I think we need to take the bull by the what and just get it done. It's in our best interest to develop that. Now, Steve DeMarzio says, has virtual reality or augmented reality become a bigger part of collision training? Do you know about that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So there is some stuff now, like with the Oculus, so with the VR programs, that are more on the painting and the refinishing side. So classes that are virtually, teaching somebody how to paint a car or to prep a car with the VR, which is fun, which is cool, but it's going to be a real wake-up call when you get into a real booth, with a real gun, which is great, I think it's exciting, because it stimulates the young mind, you know what I mean? It brings them in, it's something cool to do. And I definitely see this technology going even further and being better, but right now it's still kind of in the beginning kind of phases of that piece.
Is it kind of like, and I don't know if you know this, but like, I've spent a lot of time on Flight Simulator, all right?
Mm-hmm.
And Flight Simulator is very cool, on the home PC, like a high-end PC with a Flight Simulator, not with all the pedals and the yoke and all that stuff, but just the, 60 knots on the Cessna, pull back on the thing. and you're going and making your approach to land. And of course, if you crash land, you just hit reset on the program and then you try it again, which you can't do in real life. Having spent time in a spray booth, I know that there is a certain art to how you're holding that spray can and you're moving it along the panel, that I don't know that you could necessarily simulate something like that. I don't know that you'd have the feel, the weight, because that's it's something you have to feel, right?
It's very different. I think it's great. You know what I mean? I think it's a great educational piece. But when it comes to automotive, nothing beats hands-on, boots on the ground, in-field training. You know what I mean? That is the most, important piece, in at least in our industry.
Yeah, no, here. Mark Rodriguez, show me a dealership whose staff is compensated, continuously trained, and treated well, and I'll show you a happy, highly retained customer base. Yeah, it sounds like what I was talking about down in Jacksonville.
No, absolutely. It's a simple concept. You treat your people good, your people treat your customers good, and it's a trickle down environment, and it's really simple, circling it back around. You spend a lot of time at work.
Yeah.
And it's like, you want to make sure that people want to be there. You're there for 8 hours. And if you want somebody to stay an extra hour or show up early, that better be a really great place to work, but it's definitely possible, A little appreciation goes a long way. Bring in some bagels, have a barbecue. Come on.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah.
Steve DiMarzio says TechForce Foundation rocks. I second that.
I agree.
Jennifer says, love this video. I think she was talking about the young kids. Yeah, that's one of my favorite videos, actually. Can you send it to me? Absolutely, Jen. I'll send you that video. That's a wonderful video. I'll definitely send that to you. Mark Rodriguez liked that video also. And Brian says, one of the biggest problems is that most dealers think they can run an ad to recruit from a labor pool that doesn't exist. The majority of dealers aren't willing to put in the hard work to develop a defined career path and consistent roadmap for technicians to have clarity of what it takes for technicians to grow.
Yeah,
I'm fortunate to have been involved in some hiring and retention workshops that we did around the country. That was eye-opening. There's so much more to it than we think about. And this career path thing, it's huge because it shows the technician, whether it's a body technician or a mechanical technician or transmission, it shows them that you care for them, number one, because you're willing to put your money where your mouth is and say to them, hey, this is what we expect of you. This is what we gladly provide you so that you can achieve these levels and this mastery. And when you do, then you gravitate to the next level where you get this, and that. It could be compensation. It could be schedule. It could be going from the express lane to the main shop, any variety of things, depending on what's important to that person, right? We never assume that they know everything we do and vice versa. It's important to communicate with them to find out what their goals and aspirations are, and then tailor a career path that fits them and you, because everybody wins that way, right? There's no disappointment.
Absolutely. It's, and that's one thing that we really try to dial in our mentorship program is having these quarterly meetings so we can evaluate skill set to make sure that compensation is being, that is there, because essentially people want a good place to work, but they're showing up to work because they want to make money. And essentially it takes communication to know where your employee's at a skill set.
Right.
So they could be compensated correctly. But that takes communication. That takes, hey, let's sit down, let's have a meeting, let's evaluate, let's talk. And if these basic, ideas and transactions of communication aren't happening, it's going to be, it's not going to be good. That's the key to any good relationship, right? Is communication.
Yeah, it's a recipe for disaster. You need to invest in it. And Peter Smith liked Brian Kramer's comment because he says, brilliant comment, Brian Kramer. Says, sounds like Ed Roberts read my onboarding manual. Must cross-train not for abilities, but for empathy. Yeah, it works.
That's awesome, Peter. Absolutely.
Miracles.
It really does.
Steve DiMarzio, here, Paul, on going into schools. Yeah, that's our huge opportunity, right? They're not coming out of schools by the droves. They're not. So reallocate the monies. Let's develop the program. And the beauty of it is, if there is no program, we get to develop it exactly how we need it so that it best serves our clients.
Absolutely.
It's not rocket science.
No, absolutely.
And Steve DiMarzio, subscribe to TechForce Foundation's channel on YouTube. Great videos are there. Join techforce.org. Let me show this other video because, first of all, you can join techforce.org with a free membership, okay, to kind of see what it's about. And then it's a nonprofit, so the money is that $2.4 million in scholarships that they give to students in various different forms through field trips, through training, through helping with, let's say the technician's car breaks down and he's got to take a test. There's some help with that. There's so many different ways that they help. So as a dealership, if you join as a sponsoring member, you're really making a great contribution on our industry. So let me play this here. Let's see here. Here we go.
TechForce, the first and only network for next-gen tech.
Welcome to TechForce, a platform dedicated to launching and advancing the careers of next-generation technicians. People like you, students, instructors, working techs, industry leaders, you. Showcase your school, job, and awards. Post your current project and follow your friends. Flex your talent. Follow industry trends and connect with future employers. Connect works on all devices. Compete with other users and climb the leaderboard in daily and special trivia. Scholarships.
$2.3 million in scholarships awarded annually.
Explore your passion, flex your talent, build your career. Join techforce.org.
So techforce.org, go on the site, sign up for a free membership, and there's huge benefits. You know what? Let me just share. Let's see here.
Yeah, and that's one of the really great things about TechForce. We run into, those issues so many times when, young students, it could be something so small, like a car issue or that's going to keep them from, completing a program, and to be able to have, access to funds. It makes the biggest difference.
Oh, it's huge. So I just want to walk through the platform here so folks can see it. So when you sign in here, you've got your dashboard, things that are new, and some of the partners. There's a lot of partners. And then some of the events that there are. I mean, it's huge. You load more, you can go on for days. The scholarships, how to apply for scholarships, different opportunities. I mean, it's an all-encompassing website here. Then we've got the career hub. Here's a technician.
Yeah, that's
some
awesome.
of the people involved with TechForce. Hey, I know that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, who's that guy?
So a lot of people are involved with this organization across the country. A lot of schools. I mean, look at all of the schools that are partnered with TechForce. Incredible resources. And then industry, Ford dealers, AutoZone, Enterprise, Hertz. There's so many different companies. And then they make learning fun, right? There are there are things that you can participate in. You climb the leaderboard. Hey, I know this guy too, Steve DiMarzio. Here we go. He's number 6 with 5,307 points. Good going, man. So they make it fun. You can participate. Here are some more of the events. I mean, they'll take young kids to the racetrack.
No, yeah, it's really awesome. I got to spend some time with the students at the Apex SEMA show. And it was just like, for most of them, it was their first time there. And, just the look of excitement on their face. And it really exposes them to the big picture of our industry. That it's, it's not just about being in the stall. Like there's so many different aspects that you can get into with the foundation of education as a technician. It's like the possibilities are endless, and it doesn't stop there. And just exposing them to that, it's a game changer. It's life changing for some of them. Sometimes that might be the biggest trip. We took some students, from the Bay Area. Some of them, it's their first time ever on an airplane. What I mean, or staying in a hotel. So. It's a really cool to see that and to be a part of it.
And I love these training videos, because look, this is not certification stuff, but let's face it, okay? Just like a chef, some of the better chefs in restaurants today have worked their way up, okay? They started as bussers, dishwashers, and now they're executive chefs in these restaurants with a lot of skills and empathy for the people that work with them. You can learn how to do different repairs. These are short 5, 10, 15-minute videos that teach you how to install replacement air ride shocks and struts. Real world stuff that you would do right here that you can learn. Because when you learn a lot of these, you could spend all day watching some of these training videos. And when you learn some of these skills, the concepts on how to do them, and then you go into the shop and you already have the foundation. I mean, that's going to make your ascent to the top a lot more rapid.
No, absolutely. They do a great job with, displaying the information and from all different aspects, from, school, industry, events, training. TechForce is very well rounded when it comes to, distributing the information. During the SEMA show, one of the comments that one of the leadership at TechForce said was, our specialty is advocating and education, making, technicians aware of the industry. It's the industry's job to keep them.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's kind of a big part where, industry, that's where we're having trouble, because we have great solutions like TechForce that are out there that are exposing the not only collision but all aspects of automotive and transportation. They're exposing the students and the next generation to it, but it's like when they get into your organization, into your facility, can you keep them there?
Right.
And
Mike Larkin says, let's see here. What is the shortage level? What is the shortage level between 1 to 10? Number 10 is an emergency level. Yeah, I think we're at a number 12.
I think we're at exactly 13.
Lucky 13. And Steve DiMarzio says Apex and SEMA shows were overwhelming in a good way.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a lot of fun.
So listen, the hour has passed.
Yeah.
It's like in the blink of an eye. I really appreciate you spending the time with us.
Yeah,
Brian,
definitely, Paul.
I've learned a little bit about the auto body trade beyond what I knew. I thought I had a good foundation, but I've learned that so much has changed since I first started tinkering with this stuff. And hopefully some of the folks on here and the ones that watch it on the replay will have similar experiences. So for those that watch now and or on the replay, appreciate the support every week on the show. If we are not connected, by all means, send a connection request. If it's relevant for us to be connected, I would love to connect, and I'm always open to a conversation. if I can help you or you can help me, I'm open to the conversation. So Brian, thanks again, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks for listening.
All right. And we'll see you next week on Sunday Night Live. Have a great and successful week next week. Thanks again.